now, Notre Dame is number one.
Notre Dame with a miracle win as the
He's
clock
going
runs.
in. Notre Dame has scored.
Hey everyone, it's Brian here. We'll get started with Coach Kelly right now, so go ahead and operator can queue up the questions, and we'll get started today.
Let's take our first question from Pete Sampson from Irish Illustrated.
Hi, Brian. I had a question on the missed field goal. Bennett Jackson, Chris Brown are out there at the same time. Did you notice that as it was happening? Is there an exception to that rule, or that wouldn't be a penalty?
No exception to it. It was a coaching mistake. We had put our Desperado team on there, and Chris Brown is part of Desperado, and we got to do a better job. An oversight that can't happen.
When did you, I guess, notice that or become aware of it?
After the play.
One of the things about you mentioned this, and your players talked about it after the game, is about the ability to take an opponent's best shot. Could you just talk about getting that message through, and if you felt like yesterday could have been a turning point for you guys moving forward, where they understand to be a championship level team that you have to play at that level every week, not just against Oklahoma?
Yeah, I think certainly they understand, what it means to be ready to play each and every week. I really didn't have any problem with their preparation during the week.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't play with the same focus and intensity that we need to each and every week against quality opposition, and there can't be any difference between Oklahoma and Pittsburgh because they're going to play at the same level, and we're not good enough not to play our A game. So I think the learning experience is that, listen, you're 9-0, but you have to play your very, very best, or all these games are going to come down to one or two plays, and so hopefully they've learned from that.
I mean, you've had championship teams before. Is that one of the toughest lessons to get a team to learn?
Well, I think it's all part of the football teams that I've had. They've all had good days and bad days. The winning teams have all found ways to win games. I'll go back to Auburn in 2010 had I think they had 6 games that they won by 3 points. I think really what's the most important thing to ingrain into your football team is that perseverance and that toughness and that confidence that you're going to win no matter what. Along the way, you learn that you also have to play your very best each and every week, especially when you're at Notre Dame. So I think the latter comes first. In other words, you want to build that belief that they can win under all circumstances. But along that journey, they also realize that each and every week they're going to have to bring their best.
And I was just kind of curious, going back to Everett in the third quarter, were you going back to him regardless at that point, or was some of that indicative of the interception that Tommy had thrown?
I don't know that it was just the one interception. I just felt like the offense was a little stale, and we needed a way to kind of jumpstart it. And Everett can go in there and do some things, as you know, with his feet and kind of create some things. I thought we needed to create some things. We just, I don't know, I just had a gut feeling that we needed to kind of jumpstart the offense.
Thanks.
We'll take our next question from Tom Coyne from Associated Press.
Yeah, Brian, following up on that, I think last night you said you went and talked to Everett. Were you concerned at that point that maybe he wouldn't be mentally ready to go back in?
Well, you're always looking for signs to see how your guy's responding, and he's a young kid, and he handled himself much better than, say, the first couple of times when we took him out of the game. But I think he's a very competitive kid, and I got a feeling that he wanted to get back in there and compete, and he certainly did that.
And he mentioned that he was watching and seeing things and seeing some of the mistakes. Is that one of the things that maybe you have one of your assistants paying attention to see if he's, in the game rather than sulking about what happened?
Oh, certainly, yeah. We're making sure that we're having dialogue with him on the sideline, and that he's definitely staying in the game. And we talk to him in between every series to make sure that he was still focused, and he was.
And talk about perseverance, with the whole team. But is this a lesson that, especially for Everett, that you can start out with some tough plays and maybe not doing the best, but if you stick with it, even a late mistake, if you stick with it, good things can happen?
I hope so. I think they're all learning experiences for him, and we hope that he takes from this game that if you just keep fighting and you just keep sticking with the game plan, that you got a chance. And again, every step for him has been a learning experience. I think he takes that with him from yesterday's game.
And last one for me about Manti. I think he only had one tackle in the first half. I think two in the third quarter, and then picked up in the fourth. Were they doing something different, or was he having kind of an off game too?
Nah, I mean, he didn't make some plays that he's made before, but he's still an incredibly gifted player. I mean, they got us on a couple of screens that were well designed. We didn't get some support from the back end that we needed. No, I wouldn't say that Manti was a cause for why they ran the ball more effectively. There were two or three players that were not fitting the play correctly.
Thank you.
We'll take our next question from Eric Hansen from South Bend Tribune.
Hey, Coach. You spoke a little bit about Matthias' surgery and so forth last night, everything that was involved. Was there a thought originally that he might not be able to play with this? And secondly, how do you feel like he did play once you had him on the field and got a feel of that?
No, he practiced after the surgery the next day, and then he tackled on Wednesday. We had pop-up tackling drills to make sure that he felt like he could tackle, and he was engaged, had a good week of practice, but he didn't play with the same speed in the first half. I don't know why. Second half, he was flying around. He was coming down, making tackles. It looked like the Matthias Farley, so it might have had a little bit of effect on him in the first half.
And did you kind of have a backward step with Tate Nichols? What's his situation?
Yeah, we're going to get an MRI on his knee. We may have. We're not certain until we get more results. Talked to Brian Radigan today and met with his parents, and we're still in the process of getting more information. But he did suffer an injury, and we won't have any definitive information for a couple more days.
Okay. When you were mentioning the team needs to bring intensity and bringing it every week, does that apply to special teams, or was what happening on special teams Saturday maybe still some of the inherent weaknesses you thought was there with personnel and having better personnel next year for it? Where do you see that?
Well, I'll try. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty broad question. I mean, if we look at all the areas, no, we did not snap the ball effectively. We missed a field goal. We did not kick the ball off very well. We kicked it twice down the middle where we're trying to pin it. So there's I'm not disappointed with. I guess the area that we need to continue to grow towards consistency is the skill area. It's fielding all those punts. It's kicking the ball consistently. It's snapping the ball consistently. I guess those are the areas that I want to see improvement on. But by and large, our special teams have not been a reason for me to stay up all night. It's those, catching of the punt. It's snapping. It's holding. It's kicking. Those are the things, and those are skilled players. That's a craft that, they just practice every day, and we got to keep them. We got to keep them going.
Brian, you mentioned last night when you do change quarterbacks, it's a feel and so forth. I wondered, do you feel like you'll get to the point though with Everett where you won't have that feeling, where you're just going to say, I'm going to let him play through this because I trust him, or do you feel like that's just not going to happen this year, that you're going to have this plan in place?
No, I think that's a good question. I think we're getting close to playing through it because of what he did in the second half. You know, I don't think we could have done that earlier in the year, quite frankly. I think when we took him out last year, he was done. You know, he was just mentally done. He was not mentally done. And so in truthfulness, I would tell you that he's closer to getting to that level where, you know, let's just keep fighting through it, because we saw him respond with that, you know, competitiveness in the fourth quarter and overtime.
And I hate to belabor the duplicate numbers, but I did have a technical question. I know McKnight from USC used to change his number, whether he was on special teams or on offense. If you do that, do you have to tell the referees before the game? Is it something you can do on the fly?
No, you have to inform them procedurally of that, and you know, it's just bad coaching.
Right. Will you switch Chris Brown's number at this point, or will you do the procedure thing in the future if you have to go to those two on?
Yeah. We have an easy way for us to make sure that this doesn't happen again, and we'll they won't be on the field again. It's on me now, so I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
We'll take our next question from Brian Hamilton from the Chicago Tribune.
Hey, Brian, just sort of along the lines of the championship teams you've had in the past, and maybe a little bit to this discussion about the field goal stuff. I mean, do championship teams always have sort of a mix of making their own luck and getting a little bit of luck along the way? Is that just the way it goes?
It seems that way for me, that most of the time you're making your luck and you're playing through some rough spots. I've never had a team that won because it was lucky, but I had many teams that were fortunate because they were good football teams and they found a way to win, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
A couple guys
Not really.
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see how it turns out in the paper tomorrow.
Well, no, I'm not really interested in what the article looks like. I'm trying to answer your question is that I don't think that I've ever had a lucky football team. I think I've had a team that has gotten some breaks along the way, but generally those teams have earned them along the way.
Right. You can't just be 9-0 on pure luck, basically, is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. Thank you for helping me out.
No problem. On another topic, Theo, Zach Martin last night kind of lamented the red zone efficiency. Where's that on your priority list right now? How do you go about amping that up, maybe?
Well, the quarterback's got to do a better job down there. We fumbled the football, threw an interception, and missed a couple of real easy opportunities to score. As you know, 15-play drive, 18-play drive, and came out with only 6 points. You know, they just can't leave those points out there. So, you know, that's a process of continuing to develop at the quarterback position, taking care of the football. And again, I think execution down on the goal line.
9 games into a season, how much can you alter what you do in the red zone, or do you just basically have to hammer out honing what you do already?
Yeah, I think you have to even be more simpler in terms of execution and, you know, repeating the same plays and you know, making sure that you make progress during the week. And, you know, we thought we did, and then, you know, the game starts and we don't get the kind of production down there. So we're on it as much as you guys are in terms of understanding how important it is to put points on the board when you get down there.
Right. Thank you.
Yep.
We'll take our next question from Tim O'Malley from Irish Eyes.
Hey, Brian, you talked about kind of making your own luck. One guy that made an overlooked play yesterday was Zeke Mata, about 40 yards hustling downfield after Graham and fighting all the way to make that tackle. It saved 4 points, but it really saved a 24-6 deficit that would have been tough to overcome.
Yeah, you can point to that one. You can also point to when we held them to a field goal after a first and goal situation. We made a couple of big plays there too. So, yeah, I think our guys understand those effort plays can come back and help you, and I think that's another indication that sometimes when these games go your way, you you're making more plays than actually get registered when you're talking about them. And that's a classic case of making the little plays turn into something big.
And you talked about those two early drives, 16 and 18 plays. You guys are not an often penalized team, but the first offensive drive of every home game has included a penalty. And I don't know if this goes into the kind of the strange scenario of being 5-0 and 5 close home games, but do you know of anything that contributes to that when it doesn't really happen on the road?
I just think that focus, and attention to detail. We had a penalty when we just simply didn't have our W on the line of scrimmage. I mean, it's like from day one, you got to be. You got to be somebody that is not concentrating for a penalty like that to occur. So, I attribute it to the guys that just got to be sharper.
And the last from me, it looked like Danny Spahn took a bit of a shot diving for an interception from Lewis Nix. Was that a shot to the head, or was that just kind of on his shoulder when they were both going after the ball?
No, it was brachial plexus. It was his shoulder. He bounced back after it. He was a little sore. Checked in today, and he was feeling pretty good.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Yep.
We'll take our next question from Stuart Mandel from Sports Illustrated.
Hey, Brian. I guess a simple question that might not have a simple answer, but why has it been so much harder for you guys at home versus on the road?
We're really trying to figure that out, Stuart. It just might be it is what it is. I don't know. We've looked at schedule. We looked at trying to limit distractions. I wish I had a really good answer. I don't have one. I know this. We'll battle you at home. We'll protect our turf. We'll find a way to win. But it seems as though, for some reason we don't get the points on the board at the opportune time or convert when we need to offensively. It's just been one of those things where we've had to grind everything out. But at least we know this, that when we're at home, we'll battle you even if we're down 20-6 in the fourth quarter.
You mentioned some of the things you've looked into. I mean, is there any correlation between kind of the distractions that go with a home week or home weekend at Notre Dame versus what happens on the field?
Well, I don't think there's any question that there's a lot going on here at Notre Dame. We really think we've streamlined our schedule to eliminate a lot of those distractions. But ultimately, it comes down to the players and, whether it's ticket requests or family and friends want a tour of the football building or they want to go to the Basilica. We've talked about it ad nauseum with our team about how important it is to, really focus the last 48 hours in on the football game. And again, I think if we put some points on the board early on here against Pittsburgh, we're probably not having this conversation. But the fact of the matter is we didn't, and we had to battle our way back and win the game. So we're looking at all these things, but I don't have a really good answer. We've examined everything. But we do know we'll fight like heck to try to win at home.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
We'll take our next question from Lou Samoji from Blue and Gold Illustrated.
Good afternoon, Coach. First 4 games of this season, Everett Golson had a net minus 11 yards rushing. Last 4 appearances, 230 yards, averaging about 58 a game. Did you have any kind of target figure for him before the season, maybe 25, 30 yards a game to see the offense operate at the efficiency with the running game, with Everett carrying the ball?
That's a good question, and we really could use you over here in Sports Information because I don't get any of those detailed numbers from Brian Harden. So that's good work. I would say this, that we weren't sure about his durability. We weren't sure about whether we wanted to really run him a lot. But as we've seen him progress, it's pretty clear now, Lou, that we've amped it up in terms of run plays called. I think early on we were hesitant. We weren't really sure. We were worried about ball security, and we still are. But I think as the season has progressed, we've looked at him a little bit different in terms of running him.
How how much you ran quite a bit of empty backfield, especially late in the third quarter or fourth quarter. How much did that really help? Because during that time, even though Sierra and Theo didn't carry the ball, he had 5 carries for like 63 yards during that time, and seemed to open up the passing lanes too, maybe.
Yeah, we're doing a couple things in there. We're trying to get some matchups with those running backs coming out of the backfield. We're already lining them up, and we're also trying to control some protections for Everett in those situations. So when the back's in the backfield, you have to do a lot more checks with the protection. When he's not, we can get the guys out and control protections a little bit more for him. So it's really set for Everett to help him out a little bit more in the passing game.
And just switching gears to defense, Prince Shimbo seemed to have quite an active game. 8 tackles there, a couple of quarterback hurries, a sack. Did that grade out as perhaps his best game here?
He was very active, and he did not have many missed assignments, and because he had a couple the previous week. He graded out very high for us. Ishak Williams as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
We'll take our next question from Matt Fortuna from ESPN.com.
Hi, Brian. I was actually going to ask the same thing about Everett, but I guess in terms of ball protection, how much more pleased have you been with him in the last couple of weeks, just on the outside?
Well, I think we're more pleased that he's actually putting the ball and properly, carrying the football. He's not carrying it like a loaf of bread, and it's not in one hand. He still has a tendency to do that, but he's taken the coaching, and he knows how important it is that ball security is crucial to our success. So he's taken coaching. We're not there yet, but he's definitely making progress in that end.
Thanks.
And once again, to ask a question is *1. And at this time, there are no further questions in the queue, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll have a transcript on our website later today.